recognized.
Mr. Secretary, good to see you. Thanks for your service. Moving right into it, just recently, in the last couple of days, H.R. 366, the DHS SAVE Act, was signed into law by the President, which allows you to manage DHS's fleet much better than it was in the past and saves taxpayers a pile of money, I think. And I just want to let you know, as the chairman of the Oversight Committee, I'm interested in any priorities you might have that we haven't seen on rooting out fraud, waste, and abuse and getting right to that, and just offering myself to you in that regard. I have plenty of critics regarding the cost of the border wall and that discussion. And I just want to get into that a little bit. According to Bloomberg, the vast majority of heroin in the U.S. comes from Mexico, which is contributing to our devastating opioid epidemic, including in Pennsylvania, unfortunately. And I just want to use this one example as a cost of not securing the border, and just get your thoughts on if we've properly examined what the cost of not controlling our border is in that regard. Have we done that adequately? Do we know that cost?
Certainly not on my watch have we looked at that, but I would offer just a couple of facts and figures to you, and you're exactly right, Congressman. Everything, in a sense, everything that is bad in this regard comes up through the southwest border. I've talked to my Mexican friends about it. The reason why this network moves from Mexico is not because Mexicans are anything other than great people and very cooperative with us, but the immense amount of profit that comes out of the consumption of drugs in the United States, $800 billion by some estimates, is what generates all of the problems all the way south. You know, the demand generates the production and the transport. Just about 100% of the heroin consumed in the United States comes from Mexico. That's an indicator of how smart these cartels are. Years ago, it all came from Asia, not so many years ago. But they say, okay, if Americans want to kill themselves with heroin, well, then we'll help them out. And so they created the production facilities, the poppy growing, all that.
You know, if your agency will try and take a look at quantify that cost. I mean, I think it's important for Americans to know the cost. I mean, according to Pew, illegal immigration, maybe including heroin, maybe not itself, but illegal immigration costs Pennsylvania about $1 billion. So it's a significant cost, and just like to put your eye to that if you could. The President's budget request requires additional hiring of enforcement and removal operations. And I think it's a great start. I just am curious about your comments about how ICE can be effective with states and localities using sanctuary policies to stop them from doing their job, even with the additional personnel. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the best place for ICE to do its job is to work side by side with law enforcement in jails. We have a program for that. We pay for it. But if they're in the jails, an example would be someone who's an illegal alien is finished doing their time in jail, whether it's 1 year or 5 years, whatever. They simply turn them over to us, and then ICE sends them home. It's inconceivable to me why any elected official or anyone would not want us to do that. It's free. It gets someone who's very bad or bad out of their community. But you know, politics are politics, but that's the best way to do it. If we don't do it there, which is safer for the communities, safer for my officers, and cheaper, then the officers have to go out and find them. That means going into neighborhoods with the potential for violence. You know, knock wood, it's not very often, but occasionally there's some shooting, or go into courthouses and other places. Of course, we don't do churches, medical facilities, schools. That's off the table. But it's crazy to me that elected officials out there in America would not want us working side by side with law enforcement to take these folks off their hands in the jail.
So let me just, this wasn't a question I had, but based on your comments then, it seems to me that potentially the $185.9 million request to hire additional enforcement and removal operation officers is a direct result of, to a certain extent, of certain cities or municipalities not cooperating with federal authorities. We have to have more of these folks because they're not in the prisons, because they have to go out and find them out on the street. Is that generally correct?
That's fair. That's fair.
Okay, well, that's a little unfortunate. Just finally, with your indulgence, Mr. Chairman, The temporary protected status, many of them designations expire in 2018. And I'm just wondering, is your department already in the process of reviewing the TPS countries and what factors you'll be considering when determining whether or not to redesignate those folks?
Yes, Congressman, we are.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Yield.
The